Drill instructors slash drill sergeants of Reddit, what's the funniest thing you've seen a recruit do that you couldn't laugh at? Had two guys get in a fight in our bay during basic. Drill sergeant made them hold hands and pretending to be on a date all week. Only time they could let go of each other's hands was rack time. They ended up becoming pretty good friends. Edit, thanks for the gold. United States Air Force. Training instructor, are you finished yet? Trainee done, no sir. I'm done. Training instructor, walks away to avoid laughing. On the topic of names, there are lots of things that are unfortunate to be called when your rank is seaman, due to how it sounds out loud. I'm glad no one ever connected my last name to it. We had some poor souls. Such as Seaman Swallows. Poor girl. Also had a guy with the last name Tits, and he was going for the rate of IC. So his name was Icy Tits. Then he reached rank 2 and was IC2 Tits. In my basic training class I was a squad leader, which is essentially just a person who does extra chores. Anyways, for reasons unknown, myself and the other squad leaders were doing push-ups in the drill sergeant's office. Now when you do these push-ups you eventually reach muscle failure, so you just sorta hang out there in the front leaning rest and try to bust out another push-up every few seconds or so. We're all in there dying and the drill sergeant says to one of my buddies, "Private Hudson, tell me what's the difference between basic training and being in prison?" Without missing a beat, Private Hudson says, "Drill sergeant, in prison they get to watch TV." The drill sergeant cracked a little bit of a smile and then told us to get up and get out of there. We had this kid who kept pissing himself. One day, after the range, he informs our DI that he had himself right after showers. Squad bay starts to hold back laughter. DI, it's not funny. Awkward silence. DI, okay, it's a little funny, but we aren't laughing. Man never cracked a smile during the whole thing. What's that disgusting crap all over your glasses, maggot? I believe it's your saliva, drill sergeant sir. Closes eyes and waits for death. Buddy of mine told a story when he was at basic. One guy had said yes ma'am to the female DS earlier in the day, so when they were all lined up, she was going down the line, asking each person if they called her ma'am earlier. The guy who did was fourth in line, heard the three previous guys say, "No, drill sergeant," and then said in all seriousness, "No ma'am." Edit, thanks for my first silver. I overheard a "Yes, petty officer. Yes, petty officer. Yes, petty officer." Okie dokie. Petty officer had to make a quick about face and flee before he busted up laughing. It was fantastic. Early in boot in Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, we were post-shower and at attention for the hygiene inspection, wearing nothing but skivvies and t-shirts. The DI is walking the line checking fingernails and whatnot when one private's hard-on flops out of his skivvies right as the DI passes him. The DI stops, looks the private in the eye and says, "Private, I don't even like you, much less like you that way. Now put that goddamn thing away before it goes off." The private in question turned purple with embarrassment, and tries to stuff his boner back in his skivvies but is getting flustered as the DI starts yelling at him for being an incompetent private and that if he didn't get it stowed in 3 seconds the private would be taking a 10-minute cold shower. Things like, "Do I have to hose you down like an excited chihuahua? Should I call the vet? Good God, private, is that how you greet your mother at night? Stow your gear, god damn it." Every other private in line was trying not to laugh and the SDI had retreated to his office where we could hear him howling with laughter. The private finally gets his junk stowed and the DI resumes inspection, and you could see he was trying his damnedest not to bust out laughing. No one got much sleep that night, there were too many gigglers in their bunks and too many quiet one-liners. Edit, should have used recruit, not private, memory is a hard thing to use right. Also, damn, this blew up. Glad y'all enjoyed it. What I'm getting from this thread is that military training is like joining a non-consensual improv troupe. Edit, wow, this comment got a lot more attention than I expected. Thanks for both the silver and the gold. Not only that, but you get to shoot guns. Not many comments here, so I'll add my bit. One recruit left his training guide just lying on his rack. My lead RDC decided this was punishable by making the recruit stand in the middle of our berthing, hold the training guide in the left hand, salute it with the right hand, and then bring it in and gently whisper, "I love you, training guide. I'm sorry I left you out. I'll never leave you lying around again." That was hilarious, especially because we were all put at attention while he did it for 45 minutes. Not a drill sergeant, but when I was in basic I saw 3 drill sergeants surrounding a private who was laying down, and they were all screaming, "Go the to sleep right now, private, you take a goddamn nap this very second, you poor tired soul." Not exact words, but you get the gist of it. I still wonder how he got himself into that predicament. Had a soldier one time stop doing mountain climbers while we were being smoked as a platoon. DS came up and squatted down, yelling in his face why he stopped. Recruit yelled back, "This soldier has made it to the top of the mountain, drill sergeant." Dude just walked away trying not to break with laughter. During field training exercise, the DS told me to get a trash bag, then go around and collect as many pine cones as I could. For like 3 hours. Had a bunch of trash bags. He then took a little walk around, contemplated for a bit, then said that he was mistaken and it looks better with pine cones. He ordered me to redistribute all the pine cones. In Navy boot camp they call forced PT beatings. Everyone knows what a beating is. Navy doesn't have drill instructors, they call them RDCs, recruit division commanders. One day standing in ranks the RDC is going around asking random trivia questions about a test we had to take to make sure we had been studying. He gets to a guy who was eccentric, to say the least. This is about a month and a half into boot camp. RDC asks the question, guy gets it wrong, so RDC yells, "No wrong, beat yourself." Literally everyone knew this meant start doing push-ups, so the expectation is he will start doing push-ups as the RDC moves to the next guy to ask a question. I was standing across from the guy and he had a confused look on his face. He looked at his own hand for 5 seconds, then hauled off and slapped himself in the face. It made a loud crack sound. He got himself good. I cracked and chuckled, trying to keep composure at attention. The RDC looked to me, then realized why I laughed had to do with the slapping sound. He turned back to self-slapping guy and asked him if he slapped himself. Guy says, "You told me to beat myself." Cue the entire barracks cracking up. It was a single moment during boot camp where the curtain was raised and a moment of unadulterated levity came over everyone. The RDC couldn't stop laughing, so the tough guy asshole persona melted away for a good 60 seconds until he regained composure and made us all do push-ups. The push-ups were an easy price to pay for that moment. Not me, but I had a great team sergeant who had a floater, wonky eye, that he was blind from an injury in Iraq. So one eye was dead on and worked fine, but he had this one Uncle Ruckus eye that just did its own thing. He was a very physically imposing man with that classic drill sergeant bass-filled voice, and his crazy eye just added to it, and he knew it. He told a story about his time as a drill sergeant when 2 privates had sat down on fire watch and were kinda just being real lackadaisical about their duties when he found them. So he starts just giving them the business classic Full Metal Jacket style, and finally he just ending his rant right before he's about to smoke them for who knows how long, when one of the offending privates just says, "Drill sergeant, are you yelling at us or the water fountain?" It stopped him dead in his rage and he just walked away mid-knife hand. In the academy, one of the DIs had a recruit doing push-ups. He told the kid he was going to do push-ups for 5 minutes straight, or something like that. As soon as the kid started, another DI approached the first DI and started arguing that the kid hadn't really f***ed up that bad, and he didn't really deserve to be punished. After some back and forth, he agreed that the kid did indeed deserve to be punished. The first DI then said loudly that he had not checked his watch, so he would have to start the 5 minutes now. At that time another DI approached and started asking for mercy on the recruit, who was by now basically just humping the ground sweatily. It went on like that for a while. Good times. Had 2 guys laugh when RDC walked in, so he had them stand almost noses touching each other. One would yell, "Want to hear a joke?" and the other would yell, "Ha ha ha," repeatedly for hours. It was hilarious at first, but once their voices started to crackle it got old pretty quick. Edit, thanks for the silver is my first. Not a DI, but I enjoyed watching this happen. On hikes my DIs loved having conversations using the recruits as messengers. The DI at the end of the formation would send a recruit to the front to give the DI up there a message and back. They would either have stupid conversations or talk trash using the recruit. We had 251 stocky blonde guys named Johnson in our company one cycle. Different platoons, no relation at all, but they looked really similar. One day during grass week a couple J-hats made them face each other and go back and forth screaming, "You're not Johnson, I'm Johnson, no. Fuck you. You're not Johnson, I'm Johnson." You have absolutely no clue how hard it was to not break into a million pieces after about 5 minutes of that. During basic, the standard for clearing the range was to point your M16A2 rifle up and down range, and the DS would then clear each rifle with a brass rod. Upon completion, each recruit said "No brass, no ammo, drill sergeant." One soldier f***ed up and said, "No ass, no bramo." Our DS stopped, sat down, laughed, got up and forced everyone to push until he was done clearing each platoon's rifles. Not in boot camp but in a school setting in the military. In formation one morning, I heard a slap and a guy killed a fly or a mosquito or something. The instructor started screaming that corpsmen do not kill unless defending themselves, their marines or patients. He had just killed an unarmed friendly and will give it a proper burial. So he made us all dig a human-sized grave while the sailor that killed the fly stood there watching with dead fly in hand. We gave it a funeral and everything, without honors, and had to fill in the hole. We kinda hated that guy for a while. Unarmed friendly. F that. If it was a mosquito, it was armed and presumed hostile. An RDC in another division asked a guy if he shaved that morning and the guy claimed he had. The RDC said, "Recruit, you are either a werewolf or you are lying, so which is it?" The guy responded, "I must be a werewolf, petty officer." We weren't allowed to talk during chow at the galley. You had to point at what you wanted another recruit to pass, and they had to silently pass it. One recruit wanted a napkin and pointed. The other recruit asked this. The CC's, Coast Guard DS, immediately came over, circling him like sharks, screaming at him. They made him put like 10 saltines in his mouth and chew until his mouth was full, then ask the first recruit if he wanted a napkin again. He barely could get it out, spitting pieces of cracker everywhere. Then they screamed at the first recruit to answer him, but we were all silently cracking up. Sounded like this: "Few want a napkin?" Pieces of saltines flying out. Answer him. Cracking up, almost crying, "No, thank you." It was the best.